All right, folks, get ready for another deep dive. Today, we're going full speed ahead into the Star Wars galaxy.
Sounds exciting.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
You sent over some incredible stuff for us to dive into.
Yeah.
Yeah, a podcast breaking down the Andor Season 2 teaser.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, and a news piece about some possible new Star Wars movies.
Okay, yeah.
So, what is that teaser trying to tell us about where Cassian is headed?
Right.
And could we really be going back to the Skywalker saga? Let's jump in.
You know, what strikes me is how these two things, the Andor teaser and these movie rumors, they both kind of give us this peek into what's next for Star Wars stories.
Okay, yeah.
On the one hand, we've got Andor showing us this, down and dirty side of rebellion. Yeah. And then we have these whispers about going back to the Skywalkers, which would totally change things up again.
Let's start with Andor Season 2. That teaser, I don't know about you, but seeing Biggs Kayleen back, still fighting after everything she went through, I was floored.
Oh, absolutely. Talk about resilience.
Right.
And that line, we need a pilot, it just jumps out at you.
It does.
It's got to be something big, something really important, and knowing Bix, she won't be sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what kind of mission needs that kind of urgency.
Yeah, definitely. And then we see Luthen, all mysterious in his cloak, and he tells Cassian to stop being a soldier and become a leader.
Ooh, I love that scene.
Season 1, it really showed Cassian going from just trying to survive to really believing in the rebellion.
Totally.
But this feels like a huge step.
I think so, too. You got to think about where the rebellion is at this point.
Yeah.
It's all these different groups kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Luthen probably sees that. To really take on the Empire, they need someone to bring everyone together.
Right.
Someone who can get people to follow them no matter what.
Right. Yeah.
This might be Cassian's moment, to become that kind of leader, the one we see in Rogue One.
That's a really interesting point. But that makes me think, what kind of leader does the rebellion need? Season 1 definitely didn't shy away from showing the hard choices rebels have to make.
Oh, for sure. It wasn't all black and white.
Right.
We saw the Rebel Alliance doing some things that made you question their methods.
Right.
Like take the Aldhani heist, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Putting innocent lives at risk to get that money.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got what they needed, but it makes you think about the cost,
For sure.
It's not just good guys versus bad guys, and I think that's what makes Andor so gripping.
Totally agree. It really flips the script on what we expect from Star Wars.
Right.
Speaking of changing things up, let's talk about these rumors about new Star Wars movies, episodes 10, 11, and 12.
Oh, yeah.
This news has me doing the Kessel Run in my head. Are we going back to the Skywalkers?
Well, the reports say Simon Kinberg, the guy who worked on the X-Men films, is leading this potential trilogy.
It's not just that he's done big franchises before. It's that he's really good at telling these complex stories.
I see what you mean.
He kept all those different X-Men timelines straight and engaging.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's got to be crucial for a new Star Wars trilogy.
Totally. Remember how the sequel trilogy, even though it looked amazing, some people weren't happy with how the story, jumped around a bit?
Yeah.
Having Kinberg involved might mean they're going for a more, streamlined approach to the storytelling this time.
That would be great.
Right.
But the big question, are these movies picking up the Skywalker story after Rey take on the legacy? Or are they doing something completely different? The sources we have seem kind of split on that.
It's a bit of a head-scratcher, isn't it?
And it is?
Some reports say we'll be following the Skywalkers, while others say we might be heading somewhere entirely new.
All right, that's a cliffhanger for sure. And on top of that, we've got those projects from James Mangold and Dave Filoni.
Right.
Both are supposed to be exploring new parts of the Star Wars universe.
I'm excited about those.
Me too.
Yeah.
So maybe we're about to see a huge expansion, going beyond the Skywalker saga.
What's really interesting is this could be a big turning point for the franchise.
Okay.
The Skywalker saga, as iconic as it is, it does have its, boundaries.
Right.
Exploring new stories lets Lucasfilm try different things,
Yeah.
Different characters, different time periods, different themes.
And for a fan like me, who just can't get enough Star Wars, that's super exciting. Think of the possibilities. We could see stories set in the Old Republic era, or maybe even a deep dive into how the Sith came to be.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Right.
This could be how they bring new life into Star Wars, getting a whole new generation of fans hooked, while still keeping the old school fans happy.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Before we go too far down that road, I want to ask you, what do you think about all this? Do you want to see more of the Skywalkers? Or are you more into these completely new stories in the Star Wars universe? I feel like this is something every Star Wars fan is thinking about right now.
You're probably right about that. It's a tough question. It's wild to think how Andor changed what a Star Wars story can even be.
Yeah.
It's not afraid to, like, get into the messy stuff about rebellion.
Right?
Showing us that good and evil, it's not always so clear-cut.
That's definitely something that stayed with me after season 1.
Yeah.
We see Cassian, Luthen, they're making these hard choices, sometimes bending their own rules for what they think is the right thing.
Right.
It really makes you wonder, do the ends always justify the means?
You remember that scene where Luthen goes head-to-head with Saw Gerrera?
Oh, yeah.
Two sides of the rebellion, both fighting for the same goal, but they go about it in completely different ways.
Totally.
Luthen, he's okay with working in the shadows, making those tough calls, while Saw, he's all about fighting fire with fire.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast.
It makes you think, what kind of leader will Cassian become? Will he go down Luthen's path doing whatever it takes?
Right.
Or will he find another way, a way to fight without losing his humanity?
That's the big question going into season 2, right?
Totally. We know how he ends up in Rogue One, giving everything for the rebellion.
Yeah.
But how does he get there? What makes him who he is? What will he have to give up along the way?
I can't wait to see it all play out.
Me neither.
Speaking of journeys, let's get back to those new Star Wars movies.
Okay.
If they do continue the Skywalker saga, what story is even left to tell? I mean, we've seen the Empire rise and fall, Anakin's redemption, Rey becoming a Jedi.
Yeah.
Where do they go from there?
That's the challenge, right?
It is.
They got to move the story forward without just repeating what we've already seen.
Right.
Maybe they could explore what happens after the First Order is defeated.
Okay.
How does the galaxy recover from that kind of war?
Right.
What problems does the New Republic face?
I could see that working.
Yeah.
Maybe they focus on a new group of heroes, people who grew up during the war.
Right.
And now they have to find their place in this new galaxy.
And think about the potential for conflict. The First Order might not be completely gone.
Right.
Or maybe some new group pops up trying to take advantage of everything being so unstable.
There's a lot of story potential there.
Totally.
Something I would love to see is a story about the early days of the Jedi Order.
Oh, interesting.
We've gotten bits and pieces in shows like The Mandalorian and Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah.
But there's so much we don't know.
Right.
How did the Order even begin? What were their struggles like back then?
I like that idea. It'd be a chance to dig into what the Jedi are all about, their connection to the Force.
Exactly.
How their beliefs changed over time.
Imagine a story set thousands of years before the Skywalker saga.
Okay.
A time when the Jedi were still figuring out their place in the galaxy.
Right.
It could be this huge epic adventure, giving us a whole new perspective on the Force itself.
The possibilities are endless, which is why it's so fun to think about.
It is.
But I think it's also important to remember whether these new movies stick with the Skywalkers or go in a new direction. They have to be good stories on their own.
Right.
They need interesting characters that people care about.
Yeah.
Stories that add something real to the Star Wars universe.
It can't just be about nostalgia or giving fans what they think they want.
Exactly.
These movies need to have heart, soul, and something to say.
I'm really curious to see what these filmmakers do. Will
Yeah.
they build on what George Lucas started, expanding the whole Star Wars mythology?
Right.
Or will they just rehash what we've already seen, playing it safe and leaving fans disappointed?
I'm trying to be optimistic.
Yeah.
I think there are still so many stories to tell in the Star Wars universe.
You too?
Stories that can move us, make us think, and inspire us.
I agree with you there.
The galaxy far, far away is huge and full of potential.
It really is.
It's like a blank canvas, just waiting for new adventures, new heroes, new legends. And with talented people like Simon Kinberg, James Mangold, and Dave Filoni involved,
Yeah.
I have a good feeling we're in for something special.
I hope so.
But before we wrap up part 2 of our deep dive, I want to hear from you.
Okay.
What kind of stories are you hoping to see in the future of Star Wars? Are there any characters or time periods or themes you're really interested in?
Wow. It's incredible to think about everything we've talked about today.
I know, right?
We started with that Andor Season 2 teaser, looking for any hints about what's next for Cassian and the Rebellion.
Right.
Then we jumped into those rumors about new Star Wars movies, trying to figure out if we're going back to the Skywalkers or off to someplace new.
Yeah.
It's enough to make your head spin.
You know what really stands out to me is how much passion you bring to this deep dive.
Oh, thanks.
Your questions, your insights, they really show what makes Star Wars so powerful, so important to people.
Yeah.
It's more than just movies and shows, you know?
Right.
It's this whole shared mythology, a universe where we can explore these big ideas like hope, rebellion, fighting against oppression.
You know, I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
When I first saw Star Wars as a kid, it was all about the lightsabers and spaceships. Totally.
But as I've gotten older, I've started to see the deeper stuff, the questions it asks about good and evil, the choices we make, how they affect the world.
And those are the things that make Star Wars so timeless, so relatable.
Right.
Whether it's in a galaxy far, far away or here on Earth, that fight for freedom, that struggle against tyranny, it's something we all understand.
And what's great about Star Wars is that it lets us explore those big ideas through adventure and fantasy.
I see what you mean.
It's entertainment with a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
A way to think about these things without getting bogged down by the real world.
It's escapism, but with substance.
Exactly.
And I think that's why Star Wars keeps appealing to people of all ages, generation after generation.
For sure.
Uh,
So as we wrap up our deep dive, I want to go back to that question you asked earlier.
okay.
Knowing how Cassian's story ends in Rogue One, what kind of leader does he need to become to make that sacrifice?
That's the question that keeps coming back to me, especially after seeing that Andor Season 2 teaser.
Yeah.
We see glimpses of him changing, going from someone who just wants to survive to a real leader.
Right.
But there's still so much we don't know.
Right.
What challenges will he face? What choices will he have to make? How will those things shape him into the hero who gives people hope when things are at their worst?
I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to find out.
That's what good storytelling does, right?
Yeah,
It leaves you wanting more, wondering what's going to happen to the characters you've come to care about.
for sure.
And with Star Wars, we have this whole universe to explore, a place where we can connect with other fans and really dig into these stories.
Well said. I think it's time for us to power down our hyperdrives and bring this deep dive to a close.
Sounds good.
But before we do, I want to leave you with one last thought.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the future of Star Wars, new stories, maybe continuing some old ones.
Right.
But in the end, the galaxy far, far away is what we make it.
I like that.
It's a place for our imaginations, where we can find inspiration, adventure, and hope.
May the Force be with you, always.
Always.
And may your journeys through the galaxy far, far away be full of wonder and amazing discoveries.
And until next time, fellow Star Wars fans, may the Force be with you.